Do you know that you can actually have full control over your headings, especially when it comes to how it's breaking? Just like when you're resizing your images, something like this. If you notice here, my heading here is breaking word by word. The moment it hits the first word, it's going to break. It hits the second word, it's going to break. It hits the third word, it's going to break. But do you know that you can actually make it to break in such a way that it's going to be much more better to read? Yeah, with just one line of CSS. And that's the property called text wrap balance. What this property does is, as you can see here, I gave it a text wrap of balance. You're going to target your heading that you want it when it's breaking, it should be balanced. You're going to target the specific heading you want. As you can see, I targeted my heading 2 and I gave it a text wrap of balance. So what this is going to do is, when it's wrapping, it's going to break in such a way that it's going to be better to read than just breaking word by word. So as you can see here, what's happening right now. So by the time I start resizing it, it's going to break not by one word, but by a way that you can actually see. Just look at what happened now. It's break like text wrap, then it came down and said balance property. It's not breaking word by word. So that's actually one of the advantages of this property. And I suggest you should not use it in paragraphs. I suggest you using it in headings because it does a little bit of calculation. And when it comes to paragraphs, it can mess everything up. So when you're using this property, use it for headings. So now we're dealing with scroll bars like this. As you can see here, we're having a scroll bar like this. And if you look at my HTML here, I just have a container with a bunch of divs inside. That's all I have. For the CSS here, I gave it a weight, height, background color. And for the divs items, also I gave it a weight. I made them to be display flex, and then I centered the spec. That's flexbox actually. But the reason I'm having this scroll bar is because of one property that I inserted, which is overflow x scroll. If I take it out and I save, now we are having everything going outside the box. Everything now is overflowing. So with that one line of CSS is what is making everything now to be with a scroll bar. But the problem we're having with this is when I'm between block red and block blue, the problem is if I leave it like this, it's going to stay in one place. But I want it, when I'm within this kind of situation, I want it to move to block red. I don't want it to be within block blue and block black. I want it to move to only one side. So with one line of CSS, we can just come to our parent container, which is the scroll. If you let me take you back to my HTML here, if you see, I gave it a class name of scroll. That's the parent container. As you can see it here, it has a parent name of scroll. So what I'm going to do is just to uncomment this with one line of CSS. It's scroll snap text. That's it, with a value of text mandatory. You give it a property of scroll snap text and a value of x mandatory. That's the first thing you're going to do. And you're going to come to each child element and give it a scroll snap align with a value of center. If I uncomment this, now this is what we're having. A scroll snap align and a value of center. If you see, I targeted my scroll and I targeted all divs that are inside my scroll container, which is all my elements here. So by the time I save this, now I want you guys to actually notice what will happen. By the time I'm in between my blue and my red box, by the time I release it, it's going to go to blue. If I'm between my blue and my black, by the time I release it, automatically it's going to go to black. So as when I'm here, automatically it's going to go to orange. It's not going to stay within two boxes in the same position. So that's actually how it works. You targeted the parent element, you give it a property called scroll snap text x mandatory, and you targeted the child element and give it a scroll snap align of center. That's all you need for this kind of problem. I see a lot of people struggling with height and weight, especially when it comes to responsive design. In this case, this is where this property comes to place called aspect ratio. In the moment you give it a weight, it will automatically make its own calculation to give it a height. Now, as you can see here, I'm having a div with a paragraph in it. It is having a weight here, a max weight. I made it to be 20 rem, and it's just having a background color. It doesn't have height. But with this property aspect ratio, if I decide putting an aspect ratio here to give it a height, let me say 1:1. Now I'm going to have an equal height and an equal weight. So let's save and let's see what's going to happen. As you can see, this is what we are having. I can decide giving it here a 9, here giving it a 16, and this is the result we're having. And if you want more breakdown on aspect ratio and everything about it and how it works, I will put a link in the description box. You can go and watch the video I made on it and you understand more and more about aspect ratio and how it works. Now, let's move to the next property, which is how to add linear gradient to your text instead of background.